We're going to start with our boy, Gurgley, okay? It looks like he wrote a little article for the Pragmatic Engineer about you Gen Zers, okay? You little Zoomers zooming around, saying things like Riz and other phrases that I don't understand that make me feel a little uncomfortable. Oh, this is so bright, by the way. Where's dark mode? Do I have to pay for it? What do Gen Z software engineers really think? Okay, I got it. Young software engineers discuss values, what frustrates them about working in tech, and what they really think of older colleagues. Responses from our exclusive survey. This is actually kind of exciting because, I'm not a Gen Z or I'm not a young fella anymore. I'm not a spring chicken, okay? I'm old. I got 4 kids. I got gray hair. My knees hurt. My fossils creak. Okay, so I'm curious what they have to say here. As a Gen Z, I'm already cringing at this article. Really? Don't cringe, okay? Embrace the cringe. Get deep in the cringe. Let the cringe wash over you like the cool waters of Capistrano where the salmon come from. Buddy. Hi, this is Gurgley with a free issue of the Pragmatic Engineer newsletter. In every issue, I cover topics related to big tech and startups through the lens of engineering managers and senior engineers to issues like this every week. Subscribe right here. Go ahead. Go give it a little subscribe. I'll leave the link below. Before I start, I have a small favor to ask. Closer to 3 years of starting this newsletter, I am still not entirely sure who reads it and what topics you'd enjoy reading more of. I'd like to change this, but I need your help. Could you please answer these 9 short questions that will help with just this? It should not take more than a few minutes. Okay, we'll put this at the end. We'll answer those questions. Thank you. All right. These days, most new grad software engineers belong to Generation Z. Type 1 in the chat if you're a little Zoomer. All right, type 1. I'm not sure where does Zoomer start, having been born between 97. How many 97s do we have in here? 98s. Dude, look at all of you Zs, man. Damn! I thought Generation Zs didn't like learning and working. What happened here? Gotta suck it. All right, hey, yeah. Let's do it. Let's do a quick poll. Let's do a little poll dance, as we like to call it around here. Okay? New poll. When were you born? How about this one? We'll just say this one. Below 1980, because you're pretty much dead at that point. We can all agree to that one. I'm kidding. Okay, we'll just go like this. We'll go like this. Gen X. We'll go. What's before Gen X? Boomer, right? We got Boomer, Gen X, Gen Y. That's Millennial, by the way. Gen Z, and then Alpha. All right, what do we got here? We got a couple booms. We got a couple X's. We got a lot of Gen Ys and a lot of Gen Zs. And a couple Alphas. Damn, what are we, like 2004? Or what are you, like 14? Yeah, it's the best streamer on the planet here. Hey. Okay, that's pretty cool. So we actually have a pretty interesting breakdown. A lot of YouTube. But I'm actually pretty shocked about the Generation Xers, right? Because that means Generation Xers. That means, what are you guys, 40, 41? 40-ish and older? Hell yeah, brother. Hey, Fibers, yeah. But you're doing good. That means you also got wisdom. Never be ashamed of being older, okay? That means you got that wisdom. Every time I feel bad about my fossils creaking, I also just remember the fact that I have seen some shit, for better or for worse, and that makes it a little bit easier for me to cope with reality and problems that I see. And guess what? I still got 30 years left of good programming. Hell yeah. All right. This is a cohort about which lots is written and said, but the Pragmatic Engineer is the first publication to ask Gen Zs what they think in a survey. I can't imagine there's not a survey that doesn't exist that someone's asked Gen Z what they think. I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure whatever all those major ones. Gallup probably has a couple. What are the other ones? I'm sure there's plenty of them. So strap in as we dive into responses from the latest generation of tech talent and find out what young professionals really think about modern workplaces and their more experienced colleagues. Chance of me getting mentioned. One in the chat if you think I'm going to get a mention here. In part 1 of this mini-series, we covered how seasoned professionals perceive their newer colleagues, covering how they view Gen Z, how to mentor younger talent, approaches to working well together, and some advice from the older generation. Pre-read, pre-knowledge. Now, it's time to turn the table while the tables are turning on the turntables. In this article, we'll find out how Gen Z software engineers see themselves and get their takes on colleagues from the Millennial and Gen X generations. Side note, it was so much fun going through the unfiltered responses from Gen Z folks. Normally, we'd thank them for such honesty, but it seems that directness is a distinctive characteristic to this generation. Really? What a crazy observation. I would have thought the exact difference. I genuinely would have thought a big difference here. Reason being is that Generation Z really is the generation of the internets, okay? And the internet's like really kind of robbed you of your ability to say things directly, unless if you're completely anonymous. So maybe it's just because this survey is completely anonymous, or B, I guess I would have just never guessed. They probably don't know how to communicate any other way. Maybe I just always assumed that directness died as the internet came about. Of course, this survey is a small sample, and catch-all terms like Gen Z unavoidably overlook the wide diversity of thought and behavior that exists among younger tech professionals. Yeah, I know, because Gen Z is capturing an age range, not what contains inside the age range. You know, there's really, what do you say? You trying to say us millennials are all the same? You try to say that we all had the pirate Lego ship as a kid? Because that's kind of offensive. But I did have the pirate Lego ship as you know, dude, you remember that one kid that had the super sweet pirate one, you know, like the $150 pirate ghost Lego ship one, and then we didn't get that one. We had the $50 one with the small little boat. Absolutely offensive. Absolutely offensive. Yeah, fuck that kid though. His parents always got him all of them. All right, of course. Let's see. With that said, let's get into Gen Z's feedback. We covered survey respondents, mostly entry-level positions in the U.S. and Europe between ages 24 and 27. Gen Z overrepresented itself in this survey. Characteristics: more informal communication, wanting to not be underestimated. A bias of modern technology and more. This is kind of interesting because I like this one because I really dislike formal communication. I really do like, hopping on a call, hashing out something with somebody, like keeping it pretty informal. So I assume millennials and Zoomers, I just assume anyone that grew up playing video games on the internet prefers this, right? Because, the shit I said on the internet, man. When I was a young kid, I'm just saying, no regrets. Just not the greatest representation of myself. But not wanting to be underestimated. The hard part about that is that, when you only have 2 years of experience, are you sure you're misunderstanding underestimated versus correctly estimated that, 2 years of experience is 2 years of experience. 4 years of experience is 4 years of experience. I think that there's some problems that a lot of, Zoomers can solve better than me. But in general, if we're building, a 20,000 line tool, something, I could probably build it better than someone that has 2 years of experience, right? That's like why you'd pay me, right? I don't know. Bias for modern technology. Yeah, I've definitely seen this on Twitter. I think this is like a Twitter influence right here. I'm actually worried about this one mostly because I can't tell if this bias is good or bad. And what I mean by that is that there's really good new stuff that's coming out, right? Rust, Zig, if Go is considered new, okay, great. Like the new versions of Go, you can do your own range function, your own iterators, right? Like it's actually becoming really, really great. There's a lot of good stuff, but also like Twitter is this constant undulating change between just like the most cutting edge, absolutely bleeding technologies. Like think about how quick Zod went in and out. Think about how quick TRCP is going in and out. Think about how quick any of this is going in and out. Wait, TRCP is out? Well, no one really talks about TRPC anymore, right? TRCP isn't like the absolute end-all, be-all of technology. And so there's this thing that like you watch happening where something comes in, people absolutely love it, say it's the only possible way you can do stuff, and then it just goes away. Super JSON, right? I don't know how much Super JSON is being used. Probably a lot, but nonetheless is like Super JSON has a whole thing, right? Bun's really great. Bun, there's a lot of great things about Bun, but it also is just out of control, right? Because it went on and it disappeared. What the F is Super JSON? Super JSON effectively allows you to serialize objects. Never heard of Super Gizmal. Yeah, Super Gizmal is pretty amazing. What's Super JSON? I just explained it. And you can serialize like a date object. Anyways, you get the idea. Like, I'm always very worried about super new technologies. I kind of like to see a little bit. That's why I'd rather it does not disappoint me when someone chooses React. I would be very hesitant to choose React server components. But at least with React, you've seen you kind of know the difficulty you're going to get into. At least you know the sharp edges. Whereas like brand new, React server components, we don't know the sharp edges. Personal guess, it's going to get really difficult when you have client server, client server, client server everywhere. And you're going to kind of get into this weird position where it's very hard for you to debug when and how things happen. And that it's going to be a complete drive of just becoming super, super frustrated. Right? Like that's my personal thought, is that I don't think making it so that the server and client feel like one computer is going to make anything easier on you. Because now you have two environments to debug, and as someone who regularly develops multi-program environments on stream, the debugging just becomes significantly harder because it's hard to like track breakpoints between two separate processes. So, anyways, flexibility, transparent cultures, work with purpose, and growth opportunities. Flexibility may not be as important among millennial/Gen Xers. Like, do you care that you have to go into work? I think a lot of older folks, even in my side of the millennials, the elder millennials, just coming into things like expected to be online around 9 and being done around 5. Like, I think a lot of people are just fine with that. You also, with flexibility also comes the incurred cost of being available at any time. There is something very nice where if you have a defined schedule, people all fall into this defined schedule. And so allowing anytime flexibility also in some sense means you're on call at all points, because someone else's flexibility is not your flexibility. And all of a sudden, someone wants you available at 8 a.m., the other person wants you available at 8 p.m. My guy said elder millennial. You like that? Yeah, because I'm on the older side. It just means yoga. Transparent cultures. I mean, who doesn't want that? Work with purpose. I mean, it's kind of interesting. Work with purpose. Can we double click on that one for a second? When I hear work with purpose, you know what I think about? It makes me feel like work is kind of the ultimate in your life. Like I like to derive satisfaction out of work. But purpose is a lot harder for me to derive because purpose does not, I don't know if you can find purpose in your work. I mean, I'm sure some people can. Some people enjoy like working for some greater, quote unquote, greater good, and that's what they feel like. But I'm not sure if the average person's ever going to find purpose. They don't own the company. It's not their ship to steer. They're just coming in and moving some pixels on screen and drawing squares. Even if you do work for the greater good, often you're just moving squares on the screen. It's just not going to it's just not going to give you purpose. But building something hard can make you feel very satisfied. Rectangles, please. Fair and factual rectangle. You know what? Quadrilaterals. How does that sound? Frustrations, lack of career progress. Bro, you've been in the career for like 3 years is what they were just saying. But yeah, I mean, I understand this stuff. I'd say a hard part about software engineering and just in general is that progress is such a maybe. Do you know what I mean? Like it's such a like how do you even know you're progressing other than you being handed a title? You kind of have to like self-measure constantly. Like though I've gotten a lot better at building technologies over the last 10 years, how do I know I'm getting better, right? It's a tough one. Poor onboarding and documentation. I mean, just welcome to every career, like welcome to every tech job in the universe. And too much or not enough process. I'd almost would rather have no process than too much process. Like if I had to pick an edge, I'd rather fall on the no process than the process side of things. Gen Z can tell when a business is in trouble. Can they? Or can everybody? I'm not sure. Older folks, a bimodal split in Gen Z's response to older colleagues, attitude towards work, their low-quality written communication, and unexpected skill sets, and being oblivious to tech YouTubers and channels. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. When that boomer don't know about me, I'm like, yo, screw that guy. I do like that. That's pretty sweet. Pre-read. Good managers, bad managers. The traits of good and bad managers seem to be generation independent. Yeah, that's not too surprising. I mean, I would say the easiest way you can tell a good manager is how much freedom they give you to hang yourself. The hard part, or the insidious part, is when you have a manager that appears to be good, but is very political and kind of pushes behind your back and you have no idea. That's the hard one to tell if they're good or bad because you often don't realize it for like a year. But typically, I just look for managers who are willing to take a risk when I say this is a good idea. And they allow me to fall on my own sword, you know? Because if I have good ideas, then I am able to like actually execute good things. But if I have bad ideas, it'll become very apparent and I will ultimately fail. And it's very obvious that I should probably, take the L. All right. So who took part in this survey? Here's the responses breakdown by role, age, region, and education. By role, most respondents are entry-level software engineering roles with few seniors and managers. Okay, lead engineer, senior software engineer, entry-level ML data 3, and then entry-level software engineer. Yeah, I mean, there's some engineers that have been programming since they're like 12, so they're just, they're coming into being 20, 22, 24 with like a decade of experience building things, and so they just fall into these large things, which is actually, dude, good on you for doing that, by the way. What a wild story to be able to like accidentally fall into something so, to fall into something that's so important, to be able to fall into your career at a young age. What a just like an amazing, awesome thing. By age, most respondents are aged between 24 and 27 at the time of this publication. Dude, nobody from 2003, not a single person. Okay. So there you go. They're all falling into here. So it looks like what, 40 responses? Oh, 50 responses, maybe about 50 responses, 55. Approximate age of the survey respondents. Okay, they're all right in here. Okay, cool. No 21-year-olds were harmed in the making of this survey. The single 20-year-old respondent in this survey is the only developer turned CEO. Classic 20-year-old. They started to code at age 13 and founded and developed agency at and founded a developer agency aged just 17 in Singapore. The company lists more than a dozen satisfied corporate customers. This kind of hustle is great to see. Region. All right, so mostly U.S., Canada, ROW, Asia, Europe. Dude, what? Oh, like, is this just like Africa, South America, and Antarctica? CEO 20. Yeah. Education and technology. Interestingly, 80% of respondents hold a computer science degree. Really? Wow. I'm a bit surprised by that. I wonder, well, I mean, there wasn't a ton of people who took this survey, so there's a small sample size, which means you have kind of like the rare event problem, where or a porous bias problem, where you just have like enough overlap, you kind of get a superposition that is a bad representation. I'm curious if you could expand this from 50s to 5,000s, what this would change. I think the sample size is something along the lines of this, right? Birth year of survey respondents, right? So this looks like what? 12, 14, 13. So there you go, 40, 50 some, 55, maybe close to 60. All right, considering the challenging job market which new grads face, I expect more companies to only hire grads with relevant university or college degrees, to make fewer exceptions to this. A respondent with a high school diploma got into tech via an apprenticeship program in UK. This person believes their senior leaders are reluctant to support Gen Zers from non-traditional educational backgrounds, i.e. no degree. The response didn't let this discourage them. Great spirit. I like to hear that. That's one of the beautiful parts about computer science and really just computers in general, is that people can't really tell you can't program. I mean, besides for Gemini not allowing below 18 to C++, like besides for Google actively suppressing the youth, besides for them, like no one can tell you can't program in C++. You can't program in this. So it's pretty cool. Like I absolutely love that facet of programming. I can make what I want to make. The end. Did you say the youths? I did. One thing I will say, though, that I think is really, really important with this statement is that I see this more on the Europeans, or at least their discussion of things, is that I often see them putting the onus on their employer to help shape their career. Never let your employer shape your career. You shape your career and then shape either your employer or where you're employed at based on what you want to do. Because the reality is no employer is going to have your best interest in mind. They first and foremost have profits in mind. Then, if they're a healthy company, your interest. Did you manage to shape Netflix? Yeah, I built a lot of things. I was data fetching, all sorts of stuff. I built I built really cool testing technology. One of my favorite testing technologies I ever built at Netflix. Here, I'll give you this. This was my I'd say this is generally my proudest work. Is that what it would do? Is it would take an MP4 file, stream in all the frames, and then what it would do is it'd have several layers, right? It would convert these into RTP. It would then pace out the packets, UDP, RTP. It pace out the packets. It would then cause oscillations depending on how you want to do it. It would then cause packet drop if you wanted to do that. And then it would aggregate these frames by sending them into the actual video framer, right? The thing that would actually take and frame all the videos. And then it would produce this into the actual like television device. And then I wrote something in the television device that was a sync that actually wasn't going to the TV, but going to my own fake synthetic video driver and audio driver. And this would measure how fast we're getting these frames and actually calculate to the nanosecond. By the way, that took so long to realize that even if you measure things in nanoseconds, you literally accidentally underflow or overflow constantly. I had to have this idea of slippage everywhere and keep track of nanoseconds. It was so hard. Those bugs were so effing insidious, and I did so much unit testing in C++, and unit testing in C++ is god-awful. Either way, did all this and was able to measure all this, and then I could report to you like how much audio loss comes through here. And so what this would allow me to do is take 30 seconds of video and turn it into 10 hours of video and just ram it through our device at extremely fast pace. And what I like, the general idea is that I would take the television device, send it video frame 1, and then I would read from its internal memory in C++ when I sent video frame 1, and then send video frame 2. And like that, so if I wanted to do time dilation, or the opposite of time dilation, make it really, really fast and just go unlimited, I could just rage it that way. And so you could spend, you could get like 20x processing of video, which is very, very hard to do. Like when you're processing every piece of video, that's really hard to do because fast forward doesn't process every video. Fast forward, like we'll skip by GOPS or various, they'll be like, hey, give me the next 2 seconds. Give me the next 2 seconds. Give me the next 2 seconds. Anyways, pretty fun. This was like my favorite project, and we named it Reggie. You know why? Not named after Reginald Hargreaves off of that one really stupid original that we had so much promise and then just utterly I thought was terrible. But no, named after Reggie Miller, the most reliable pacer. You like that? I just got done watching one of the sports ball documentaries on Reggie Miller, and Reggie Miller was a pacer that never won, and he just kept playing for a decade, being on the Pacers, and he was so reliable. But it could never win a championship. So I figured, hey, the guy needs at least one thing named after him. You know what I mean? So Reggie Miller got a shout out, okay? Probably closer to 2 decades. I know, come on, feels bad for Reggie. You know what I mean? Reggie was like this stand-up guy that was really nice, and the boy just could not get a championship. So you know what? You got a software library at Netflix for testing video for you. All right. Generation Z, a total of 59. I was so close, I guess 60. All right, Gen Z overrepresented in the survey. A total of 59 Gen Z software engineers took the survey with 63 respondents from other generations, which means Gen Z folks are around 4x more active in sharing their views relative to the generation split in this newsletter relationship. Yeah, but I would also say, again, bias selection right here. Generally speaking, a lot of, as the age skews up, there's probably an inverse relationship. As age goes up, time on the internet, right? If this is time on the internet, this is age, it probably looks something like this. I think that's probably pretty reasonable. Now, obviously, there's outliers, but I would say that if you were to average it, it probably looks something like this. So, personal opinion. All right, pragmatic engineer reader by split by generation: baby boomer, Gen Z, Gen X, millennial. Funny because Gen Z is way more overrepresented in our poll. So if we look at our poll, I thought this was pretty cool. If we look at our poll, we got a lot of Gen Z, like a lot. 200 Gen Z, almost 300 Gen Y, and even 55 Gen Xers. And not every, obviously only, 20% of you actually responded. So, all right, that's pretty cool. All right, how do Gen Zers see themselves? Gen Z devs as they see themselves. Informal and open, wants to be taken seriously, bias for modern tech, work, not a core identity. Really? Which is kind of, okay, so hold on. I gotta challenge you Gen Zers here. I gotta challenge you Gen Zers, because if we go all the way back up to the tippity top right up here, work with purpose, right? Just throwing it out there. If you're saying that, work is not your core identity, yet you want purpose, it's gonna be kind of hard, you know what I mean? As in not meaningless work. I know, but if you want meaningful work, purpose does not equal identity, but I would say that purpose and identity run really highly correlative. I would say it's very, very difficult to not have them overlap. Not really? You don't think so? Give me a reason why they wouldn't. If my purpose is to be a good dad, you don't think my identity also falls into me being active as a father? If you felt like true purpose came from the church, don't you think you would also thus have some identity in that? If you felt like your work, like saving the planet, some green technology, nuclear fuel, or just digging and fracking oil, whatever it is the key purpose to the future, you wouldn't also feel like it's somewhat of your identity? I don't know. I'm just saying, it's hard for me to imagine these two things not lining up. Adam.dev, you son of a bitch. Thank you for those 100 and some people that you rated with. Can we get a shout out? 162. It's casually ignoring the thing you do for 33% of your life. Yeah. I think it's really hard to separate them. Now, I'm not saying that you can't. It's hard for me to separate out some of these things, if that makes sense. I would struggle with that. Yeah. So there you go. Someone speaking on behalf of Christians. There you go. It's like, I totally get that. It's very hard to separate out those two things. Like, I think that if you want purpose, there has to be part of that is your identity. Like me streaming, like one of my really big desires is that I can help them youths with all the bad things that I did, because I absolutely effed up my life as a kid. Like, absolutely effed up my life. And so one of my goals is to help you guys not F it up. And so that's also kind of like, that is a purpose that I have, which is also kind of my identity, It's like, it's hard not for it to be my identity. It gives me purpose. I don't know. I'm difficult. I'm seeing it's difficult to me. I agree. They do correlate. Yeah, they do correlate, but the questions could be bad. Yeah, that's right. Straight away, there's opinions in which both Gen Z and older generations share about youngest professionals. More informal, open, and articulate about feelings. Gen Z feels open at work, and this comes across in the survey. I can bring my true self to work, even with jokes, on a daily basis in the office. That's awesome, because I have yet to figure that one out. Oh, look at that dude, big tech at Brazil. Let's go, Brazil mention. They get me. We have a lot of clear communication if there's an issue. They say, as do I. I guess if you're joking with like Gen Z and the older generation, I think older generation, they say some wild stuff. So I feel like you could be pretty open with older generation. I feel like us millennials truly ruined conversation. Real talk, millennials ruined it. I think Gen Zs are bringing it back. Gen Z, let's go Gen Z. Please champion us with that. But I think millennials are gosh darn the worst, being one myself. One-to-ones are a pretty great concept, especially when there's actually heart-to-hearts about feelings surrounding work and life. Well, yeah, a good one-on-one should not be a status checkup. Fair and factual. A good one-on-one is like, what are your directions? What are you doing? How can I help remove, obstacles? Like, are you having conflicts with people? You want to walk through how to do conflict resolution. Like, a good one-on-one should help build you up and give you the tools necessary to go from A to B. Right? It's not your boss's sole job. And a lot of bosses don't do that, but that's like a good mark of a good boss. Gen Z also has a good sense of when they're being misunderstood. When this happens, some Gen Zers are actually aware of it and clam up. I feel like there is a barrier between my older colleagues. I do not feel like I can present as my full self. This is a very bizarre statement. I mean, these two just feel like hyper juxtaposed. Like, this one is like literally the opposite. I do not feel like I can present as my full self and curate an authentic relationship. It's kind of difficult to go between U.S. versus Brazil. Yeah, very true. This could be U.S. versus Brazil. This could be a very U.S. thing. This could be very U.S. That's true. My team gets me 80%, but there's some miscommunication, which I can't quite put my finger on. I would say this is likely just working with any human. You will miscommunicate more than you could. Like, I swear that even 80% sounds like amazing. How'd you get 80%? I feel superficially understood. I feel like I can show my personality and speak relatively openly as long as I don't get too abstract or idealistic. Yeah, I mean, typically I think idealism, especially in a pragmatic workplace, is just like mostly dumb. Everybody agrees. We should have amazing test coverage, super great CI. Everyone should be in there wanting to create the best possible product. But you know what also happens? You got to get something out in 2 weeks. Like, you got to make some trade-offs, people. As long as I don't get too abstract or idealistic. However, there is a feeling of a resignation, as I'm convinced by experience that my quote-unquote true self and opinions wouldn't be understood if I expressed them fully. I'm still kind of confused by some of these statements because I would like to understand this more because multiple people keep talking about their quote-unquote true identity. I guess I don't really understand this type of speak. Maybe this isn't a millennial type of way of talking. Maybe it is. But I mean, generally speaking, I reserve and I act a different way at my job than I would say informally. And I think that's healthy. Like, do you think I should go into my job and be like, hey, dog, hey, dog, hey, looking strong there, VP of Engineering. I just wanted to have some nice personal eye contact with you for the next few moments and just express myself as we express ourselves together. At this, yeah, I'm peeing on the wall. I am. Look at this. Full on, no mercy. That's what they say, huh? Like, it just wouldn't, it's just like, that's not, sometimes you gotta have like a little bit of, sometimes you gotta have a little space, gaps in understanding like the above may come down to age and experience as much as personality. Gen Z wants to take part and not be underestimated. Respondents repeatedly say they feel their true abilities are undervalued or underestimated. Okay, I do not feel like my skills as a programmer are being fully utilized on the team. The tool we maintain is over a decade old and there is not much functionality to add. So I don't get to code much, which is one of my stronger skills. Yeah, I mean, you are at a bank, so I'm sure things move slower. But yeah, I mean, to me, this says that you're going to have some atrophy. You might want to find just a different job. This could be just a reflection of a job, not necessarily generations not valuing you. It could also be just culture. There's a lot of things there. Older generation underestimates how much learning is possible outside of the workplace. I've seen this. That's fair. Some people are very enthusiastic. I mean, the older generation also built C, Unix, Grace Hopper programmed an literal binary and then created COBOL. So, there's some moves out there. Although many do their best to support and guide us, there are a few who undervalue our abilities. I'm going to throw this out there. No matter how senior you get, there will always be an antagonist. There will always be someone who undervalues you, who will undercut you, who will go around your back, who will go in some different directions. And to expect someone not is just living in ignorance. Don't do that. Just know that this will always happen. And honestly, like adjusting expectations can often be really, really good and healthy. It seems like the younger respondents are learning the reality that some work gets more recognition than others equally worthy work does. Yeah. So I have a lot to say about this. Like this engineer at Big Tech Giant who observes that doing stuff to keep the lights on is less appreciated. Absolutely. Like, I hate to tell you this, but this is absolutely true and this is completely obvious. Really. Like, what do you guys think? Maybe I am overestimating this, but what do you guys think about that? Like, at least in my experience, if you're just simply improving logging, improving this, improving that, people are like, yeah, hey, that's a lot better. Awesome. But if someone's like, hey, I've just created the next thing that may make us $1 billion, people tend to like that more. Like, it doesn't mean that it's harder. It doesn't mean that your work was, in fact, often I find creating the new thing easier than maintaining the old thing. It has nothing to do with difficulty or whatever. It has to just simply do with opportunity, right? Profit versus cost. Maintenance is a cost center. Creation and future expansion is profit center. Then it's time to re-impact the wheel. It's about impact. Impact! I don't like it. I do agree that I would like it that everyone's work is celebrated for the effort they put into it, but I'm going to just be real here for a second. Nobody cares how much effort you put into things. Dude, if you utterly destroy yourself and you make a mediocre game, no one's going to play it, which is just like devastating, man. And if you don't try that hard and you accidentally make Flappy Bird and then you make $50,000 a day because everybody loves Flappy Bird, like, I don't know, man. Like, that shit happens, okay? Flappy Bird made more than some AAA studios. You think that the AAA studios didn't try as hard as Flappy Bird? Doubt. You know, and that's the sad part is that effort exerted is not like a linear application of your reward. And I think that that's probably, you know, like you could imagine that if you could apply more effort than anybody else in some other field, building houses, anything else, and you could actually move faster, like then yeah, you'd be directly rewarded for your work. But it's just different in programming, which is kind of a unique concept. Feeling capable of doing more than it is assigned is as old as time. The only companies that consistently push new grads colleagues to exceed their capabilities are early age startups. Absolutely. This will always be true. Where hands-on managers spot standout hires and give them extra responsibility. This will always be true because big companies like Google play as much defense as they do offense. And I'm going to tell you a little secret to life. When you play not to lose, you're going to lose. When you play to win, you might win. I can't tell you how many things I have goofed in my life playing not to lose. And I think Carson from HTMX said it best. If you can just stick around long enough, you just might hit that hype lucky curve and go to the moon. So my general take of where this idea came from is that, have you ever been playing like a basketball game or any sort of sports ball, and you're ahead by some amount of points, and there's only like, say, 5 minutes left in the game. So the only thing you have to do is just not lose, and you start thinking in the idea of not losing versus doing it in the idea of winning, right? Like you have a fundamental shift in your brain, like all I have to do is keep doing what we're doing. And it's just like, maybe that's not what you want to do. Maybe you want to win. So instead of taking risks, instead of like, it's called playing protect. Yeah. Born to lose, pay to win. Let's go. But you know, like, I'm trying to say this in a way that makes sense in computer science. I've seen so many people start doing good at their job. They make one product that was kind of a risk. They get praised. They start gaining the levels. And then the next thing they do is they stop making more stuff, and they kind of stick with it because like jumping and making big ideas is always a risk. And you start seeing people play to not lose versus playing to win. You had a mental shift about 7 years ago. Yeah, I had this. I don't know when it happened. I'm in this video and I do not condone every AAA game company right now. I think you're 100% right. I think gaming is the greatest play not to lose right now. And it's super unhealthy. It's creating such stupid games. And that's why indie development is so exciting. Because indie development is fundamentally taking a risk. You're minimally risking your time. You're maximally risking, or you're minimally risking your emotions because it's going to be hard. It's going to take time, effort, and people might not like it. Indie does have things to lose. They have more to lose than a AAA game company because most workers at a AAA game company don't own the product. It's not theirs. They're invested into. They might be small shareholders or none, right? They're just simply a cog in the machine trying to build a game. Whereas when you're the indie game holder or indie game developer, it's like that's like mostly your percent. Did he just say gay company? No, AAA company. Yes, triple gay company. Just a real triple gay company. Not just single gay, not even double gay, but triple gay, the gayest of the gay company. Classic. Unlimited gay. It's quadruple A gay company going on right now. Right? Man, that's gay. Yeah, it's like super triple gay company. But it's so true. Like the more risk you have, the more reward. And this is also where you start wrapping up identity and purpose, which can be a bit dangerous, but it is. If you feel unchallenged or that you're having unexpected light workload, know that this is not personal. Giving new joiners less responsibility and more time to learn is a hallmark of considerate workplace or manager. Rather than complain, the solution is to stand out. I do fully agree with this. Start looking at problems. Start talking to your senior engineers. Start presenting ideas. Exemplary work. Consider taking on extra work and making a great job of it. The best part is you don't have to ask somebody to take on the work. You can just come up with an idea, then get blame, find the engineers, and start talking to them about it. Right? Like, you don't have to ask permission. You don't. Coming up with ideas, feedback, iterating, taking a guess, you don't have to do that. Seek feedback from your manager. If they agree it's solid, tell them you're ready to help the team even more. This kind of proactive approach should quickly yield results and contribute to faster professional and career growth. Absolutely. Salary and benefits matter. Answering the question, if you quit your current job, what would be the most likely reason? 37% Gen Z mentioned promotion, salary, or benefits. Yeah, I mean, real. Older engineers seem completely out of touch with salary bands in the industry and stay at a place for the sake of comfort. This likely has to do with the mounting responsibility of adulthood and parenthood. Yeah. I mean, it's one of the biggest worries I have with quitting Netflix and going full-time streaming. I get it. Hashtag got that one. Feel it deep in my bones. Developer intern at a Series C company, Canada. My latest salary increase was really low despite maxing all my yearly review criteria. That sucks. That always feel really bad when you feel like you're just absolutely killing it and then you're just like, hey, here's an extra $1,000. And you're like, man, bro, I'm not even going to notice that on a check, man. That might get me like 2 dinners more this year. Come on, man. By the way, companies, man, if you have someone knocking it out of the park, what like an amazing opportunity to create like a 10-year employee. You know what I mean? Like, what an opportunity to bring them in, give them more responsibility, give them ownership, and let them like run effing wild. I am always so confused when I see a company that sees talent and tries to min-max that. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? It's such an easy way to create a staff of just like people that can hit home runs all the time. Why would you lose that? Dude, wild. I'm actually leaving my job next week. I have another one lined up that provides better opportunities for growth as well as promotion plus raise. Remember, you lose all of that delicious internal stuff. Switching jobs for financial reasons is common enough across generations. In tech, it is well known that switching jobs is the fastest way to earn what you're worth, which is unfortunate. I also recommend never take the counter. You know, just so you know, you should avoid taking the counter. If you're going to leave your job and then your job says, hey, we're going to pay you more, like, you must understand the red flag that is. You are now forcing their hand to move against or for you. They were never paying you what you were worth. Do you think they're going to, now give you worth? They're not. They didn't value you to begin with. They don't value you now. You just simply forced their hand. Switching jobs. Let's see, hon. And just forget that at senior levels, tenures can become increasingly important for promotion to the next level. More on this topic. Yeah, I understand that. Respondents with a good deal appreciate it. But the assumption that Gen Z demands high financial compensation doesn't fairly reflect the sentiment of the survey responses. Several mentioned that they're happy with their compensation and perks at the job, like a nice commute, free food, and parking. Parking. That's funny. For example, here's a software developer at a large U.S. airline on what they like about their job. I like the flight benefits at my current tech stack That's actually really cool. You know, being able to like get free flights and stuff, that's pretty cool. The people are okay. But that's not something that makes me stay. The campus is very nice as well. Great open office area, great campus to walk around on trails, ride bikes, multiple places to eat. You know, it is a good point that I think increasingly work is not a place you go to make friends. I think a lot more and more people don't have friends at their job. They instead have friends outside of their job. Or they just don't have friends and don't touch grass. Arch users, typically. But you get the idea. It certainly used to be. Yeah, no, it certainly used to be. Your job was, but you also stayed at your job. Loyalty was valued, and really it's the companies that effed the loyalty. Just throwing it out there. I think companies moved first and we moved second. I think that the average employee used to be much more loyal to companies, and companies, I believe, were loyal back at some point. And then as time went on, the ever-increasing demand for profits led to always valuing everything just simply on paper and not actually what the employee brings. And so a reflection is just us not valuing the company for loyalty anymore. And now we treat it simply like a transactional relationship, which also means that interpersonal relationships just don't exist like they used to, because it's no longer a loyalty, good old boys club at your job. Instead, it's just like a purely transactional, I do this, you do that, you break that, I leave, I find better, I leave. Anyways, let's see. Salary is just average for our company size, and we get significantly fewer days off and PTO days than what I've heard at other tech companies. Yeah, that stinks. Or Gen Z, let's see. No, they have a worse deal than their peers. A common theme in responses is that people can identify when their compensation or benefits seem unfair. Yeah, unfair is a really weird word. And what I mean by really weird word is that you've also accepted what you currently have. Is it unfair for company A to pay you less than company B? Unfair, like, is that unfair, or just like, yo, I don't know. It's hard. Like, I think internally at a company, if you have two, it's really, people always make this statement, like, we have two employees with the same responsibility and one gets paid more than the other. It's like, that's such a hard observation to make, because I've never worked at a company where I had the same responsibility as somebody else. Like, ever, for any reason, ever. And I've worked at enough places on enough teams that it's odd that that's never happened once. Like, ever. In early 2023, stock compensation was reduced significantly for new hires. This means my stock comp will not change if I get up-leveled. Stock comp is currently about 1/2 my total comp, which means I have significantly less financial incentive to work harder for an up-level. True. Again, take your future in your own hands. Don't let your employer lead your career. You either lead your employer or leave your employer. On the issue of comp, the responses suggest Gen Z respondents are pretty grounded. They appreciate their benefits and attractive compensation, but they're also unafraid to speak up when they're being paid below market or have subpar benefits. Bias for modern tech. I'm curious about this one. Gen Z respondents express a preference for exploring technologies, and they dislike legacy tech debt. Yo, everybody doesn't like legacy tech debt, man. Several say they are ready to switch jobs for more freedom to explore technologies. Absolutely. To work on more interesting systems or tools. Absolutely. And to escape systems with heavy tech debt. Like, who wouldn't? I think this is just like a pure... It's very hard for me to be convinced that somebody wouldn't want this other than someone that's completely clocked out. Like, if you want to go in 9 to 5 and never, ever have to, like, consider anything outside of stuff, then yeah, legacy's for you. But people want to, like, people want something more exciting. And by that, you also have, risk comes with exciting. For a sense of the tech stack, below is a list of technologies which respondents used before getting their first jobs. Languages: Java, C, C++, Python, Prolog. What the hell? Haskell? Universities teaching Haskell? What the hell's going on in universities? JavaScript, TypeScript, Go, Kotlin, these nuts, Rust, Ruby, languages acquired outside of studies. It's crazy that... Like, I totally get C and C++ at a university, great. Java, I can understand. I can see why you wouldn't choose Rust, right? I can see that. Frameworks and tools: a React Vue, Node, Flask, Ruby on Rails, Spring Boot, Android, iOS native development, Unity game development, Azure, GCP, AWS, Docker, machine learning, blockchain. Each respondent used a subset of this list, and almost all have used several languages and frameworks before getting their first job. Seems reasonable. It seems picking up a new language and frameworks on the go is a second nature to Gen Z. I think that should be a second nature to anybody. You should quit being a one-trick pony. Don't get stuck thinking one technology is the end-all, be-all. Be a programmer, not a frameworker. A generalist will always do better because you can be put into any situation. Oh, crap. You got to go develop something in Swift? Hey, guess what? Boot up that Xcode? You hate it. Who cares? Apple now supports NeoVim, so NeoVim, by the way. Build the thing. Move the hell on. Relatedly, they are also ahead with new technologies. Actually, there's one more thing that I want to say about this. It seems that picking up a new language and frameworks on the go is second nature to Gen Z. One of my greatest career wins was being willing to volunteer for the projects people did not want. No one wanted to build out a groovy backend. Guess who just volunteered and built out the groovy backend? It caused a huge differential in my growth at Netflix by simply being the one that would do the hard things or do the things that are inconvenient or do the things that people didn't want to do because I am willing to be a programmer and not a frameworker. I am willing to work on anything, and I care less about the language and care more about the problem I'm solving. Relatedly, they are also ahead with new technologies, and I like to try out and adopt new technology. Backend libraries like routing controllers, web frameworks like Nest, and languages like TypeScript, Kotlin, D's Nuts, and Rust. They get frustrated when it seems like older colleagues are holding them back and seeing their more seasoned peers as stuck in their ways. Even with things like default IDE settings. Yeah, I mean, it also works. You know, the one thing that's really hard about this is that there's an efficiency with your tools. Yeah, you know what? People keep putting Node on the back end. Is Node on the back end the best idea? No, it's just not. Node as a backend language or JavaScript as a backend language is fundamentally a flawed backend language. But people do it anyways because they have efficiency with the tool. So when they say choose the right tool for the job, what they're really saying is choose the tool you have the most experience with and you will likely have the least unpredicted results from. Why is it terrible? Oh, try catch. Right? You really do want errors as values. You want to be able to create a reliable service. It's extremely difficult to do errors to make a very reliable service in JavaScript. So many people just goof up just the simplest things in JavaScript. It just takes monumentously more effort. I would say that the average JavaScript person does not realize how many risks they have with their service. I do JS for a long time, hard to agree. I'm not saying that you can't do it. You can. I've seen it done. People make some amazing services in JavaScript. That does not mean it's the best. That just means you can. And there's a fundamental difference. But it's so fun, then do it. That's the best part. Do it. If you find it fun, it keeps you engaged, it makes you a better programmer, and you strive to keep coming day after day back into work, and you have energy, do it. Do it, do it, do it. Run as fast as you can because it does not matter the technologies you use if you are growing. That's like fundamentally the most important thing. Now, I would strongly suggest you explore other things to understand what you're missing. Don't let your dreams be dreams. Absolutely. Let's see. Discovering work is tougher than expected. A few responses mention the learning curve for new joiners who discover their work is actually harder than expected. Wow. You're telling me that the To-Do app did not prepare me for the future? What? I know. Crazy. Who would have guessed? Who would have guessed that To-Do MVC is just not it? I know. Or that coding is only one part of the job. Here's a 26-year-old developer who works at a bank in the U.S. I love coding, and I've been doing it for over a decade. Dude, what a boss. But actually working on software engineering is not what I expected. I don't get to code nearly as much as I'd like. I want a job where the technology is the product. Yes, so you got to remember, this person's working at a bank. Technology is not the thing they're selling. Like Netflix was a tech company that got into content. Banks, they're not that. Tech is usually a cost center, not a profit center. So it'll always be like this. You got to move slow. You got to get a lot of approval. Also, second, banks are really complicated, a lot of regulation. Everything has to be super sanitized, looked over by lawyers. I mean, I can just imagine that it's very difficult to work there. And it's more valued by the business. But I'm really concerned that I'm not learning enough on this job. Yeah, to get another job. Again, dude, but I'm really concerned that I'm not learning enough in this job to get another job. Stop letting your employer dictate your learning. You got to learn outside your job. You got to become the expert in the thing you want. They're just not going to make room for you the way you need it. Sorry. And then when you do that and you do it for long enough, you will find a job in the thing you want, and then you get to run free. Goodness gracious, people. Why do you put your future in your employer's hands? I used to code all the time. However, now that I work all day and all week at a computer, I don't have the energy or motivation to work on projects or code that I'm interested in. I feel like I'm stagnating as a programmer and as a software engineer. This one is super real. I will give you one really good piece of advice. Try starting. Just try opening the editor. It's just like working out. You only need to make it the first 5 minutes, and then you start hitting that nice curve and you start feeling better. And once you can develop the habit, it becomes easier and easier to start. I emphasize with this dev, or I empathize with this dev. Emphasize? He definitely emphasizes with this dev. The man's just emphasizing. Gurgly is emphasizing so hard until you burn out. I do not believe you'll burn out. I believe it's, in fact, the exact opposite. I believe that if you find yourself doing something you really, really like, you often will have the energy that's needed to get through other things. When you only program in something you don't like and you only spend your time doing things that drain you, you will burn out every single time. Ain't no way. But when you do creative work, it gives you energy. I emphasize. I'm going to say I empathize with this dev, as I feel the same when I'm working at a bank, where the development part of the job was trivial and the interacting with the business was much more important. There are plenty of jobs with a stretch of, which stretch software engineers, but it sounds like this person is in a workplace where engineering is the cost center. Great article, by the way, on this. Boot.dev has a really great one. Boot.dev/prime, by the way. Hashtag ad. Become a back-end engineer and support your favorite streamer. Anyways, I really loved that article by Lane. He talks about this exact thing. Find jobs that are not the cost center. It really does make a huge difference. Huge difference. They would likely be happier somewhere where it's a profit center. Pre-read, like a startup, bootstrapped company, or a larger tech-first company. More on cost centers and profit centers. Other experiences will be familiar to many readers from their first jobs in tech. All right, sometimes I struggle with pushing my ideas and initiatives when getting back from other engineers. Yeah. Or pushback. Oh, wow, I totally read that wrong. I sometimes struggle with pushing my ideas and initiatives when getting pushback from other engineers. This is such a hard skill to obtain because some engineers argue for the sake of arguing. Some engineers argue for what they think is best. Some engineers just won't argue. And you got to learn that kind of balance because you don't want to be the person that argues just to argue. You don't want to win every battle. Sometimes you take the L because you're going to take a W later. You know what I mean? Learn your own preferences and leverage them. You do, and you got to learn your other engineers' preferences and be careful with it. You know, you got to know what why they're arguing too. A Gen Z engineer at a startup also shared that business growth has made their workplace a lot more political. Navigating internal politics and gaining influence with colleagues is always tricky. I do hate that. It involves building influence with the organization or your team. This takes time, and your track work of greater work makes it easier. It's definitely one of the things I dislike the most about jobs in general is the political side of things. One respondent finds themselves working on in a siloed organization, which slows down the work. Our company is very siloed, and people don't like working together. It's part of the job in developer enablement to drive change, but culture change is tough. Something as simple as the company staff should have access to all Git repositories to promote code reuse is met with very strong resistance from parts of the organization, particularly those working on older/legacy applications. Dang. That's just super unfortunate. This is an unfortunate reality of the hard-to-change company culture combined with the challenge of working on a platform team. There are no easy solutions, but the earlier you're aware of the problem, the sooner you can decide whether to tackle them or just remember to avoid similar setups in the future. Yeah, I'd say genuinely the hard part about this is that this isn't really you don't have to convince another engineer to do this. You got to convince top-down because culture flows top-down. Culture stays strong from bottom up. Just reality. Work, not a core identity. In the first part of this mini-series about this survey, some of the older colleagues noted that Gen Z colleagues guard their free time much more than older generations. Talking with engineering leaders, this sentiment is common. But in the survey, only one Gen Z professional mentioned it. From a full-stack developer at a scale-up in a startup in the EU. My colleagues seem to find work to be an important part of their social life and feel most fulfilled when they meet regularly and have team events. I personally do not care for that. I prefer to keep work and my private social life more separated, and I wouldn't mind working fully remote. Yeah. Fine. Let's see. Articulate and direct in speech. This survey responses show that Gen Z is direct and to the point in communications comparing to more senior colleagues. Almost all respondents describe themselves as straight shooters. The Degen Legion lives? Absolutely. When asked values. When asked what they value most about their workplace, Gen Z responds say work-life balance, flexibility, autonomy. Typically autonomy is a huge win for me. Flat company structures that offer autonomy repeatedly cited. The organization is very flat and bureaucracy is minimal for developers. That's nice. It feels empowering that we have full control over the roadmap and project preferences, which allow me to be more invested in my work. That's good. I really do. I really strongly believe that engineers, you really got to give that freedom to the engineers to solve it and have less hands-on. There's no visible hierarchy. We relate as colleagues. I think this will also make it hard, though, for like any form of promotion, right? The flatter your organization structure is, the harder it is also to have any form of promotion is my guess. I bet you there's some sort of proportionalness to that. My organization has a flat structure. This means exposure to different projects and areas of work and senior engineers being approachable. Interesting. That might be unique. I'm not sure if senior engineers are more approachable in flat organizations or not. It could just be who you hire, right? I'm too straight of a shooter and people cry. I have to tone it down actively. Yeah. It's very hard. There's definitely a balance there. Flexibility and decent work-life balance are valued by generations of software engineers. Value, and Gen Z is no different. I was told all I have to do is go to my meetings and get my work done, and I go on runs and do banjo lessons during a nice long lunch. Excellent. There's flexibility around starting times, so long as 8 hours are worked, and flexibility around work from home, although I work exclusively from the office as I prefer it. Yeah, I do miss office work, most certainly. I don't feel a lot of pressure or stress, even when things appear stressful. This is a byproduct of an understanding, adaptive culture. Nice. Is boot.dev worth it? I personally like it because you build projects. Backend engineer in India noted that they have stressful 60-plus hour working weeks, which is making them consider resigning in order to take a break, even though they're learning a lot from being at a Series A startup. Long-term overwork is always a challenge, regardless of age. I do agree with this. I think unless if you have a strong ownership in the company, I think strong ownership in the company probably gives you more duration in which you can work longer. But there's definitely something there that makes it extremely difficult. And because, like I'm working for myself. When I'm streaming and building stuff, I'm working for myself. So 60 hours is not a big deal. Right? Because it's mine. It's fully up to me to do it. And so it doesn't feel stressful. But if I was like working at a startup with 0.01% of a company that could be worth $100 million, realizing that's like $10,000, it's like, okay, like that's not going to be motivating for me to do 60 hours a week constantly. You know what I mean? It's just like, man, I don't have any ownership. I have no reason to be here. Why would I want to do this to myself? An amusing comparison comes from a Google Cloud engineer who previously worked at Amazon, who mentions their work-life balance is much better compared to Amazon. As always, it is tricky to compare two companies with 100,000 plus employees each. Amazon is generally known for high expectations, as previously covered. I think Amazon culture is likely the worst engineering culture on earth. If I were you, I'd just stay away from Amazon as much as possible. Unless if you're just trying to get a good resume, then obviously go work at Amazon, but man, they're going to demand a lot of you. Their stock allocation is crazy. I don't know if you know this, but typically when you work at a company, you get a 4-year stock grant where each year, for the first year, you get no stock. And then at this point, you get your first 25% after year 1. And then year 2, you get generally small allocations of your next 25%. And it goes like that. At Amazon, after year 1, you get 5%. Like how fucked up is that? After year 2, you get 10%. Like they literally, and there's an internal thing. I talked to some managers there. There's an internal thing where they try to get you to not work at Amazon longer than 2 years. You know why? Because they're trying not to pay you any of your stocks, right? They purely treat engineering as a cost. They're a horribly ran company by horribly ran people. I would never, ever work at Amazon. The end. Now, if you had to, I get it. All right, if you have to, not arguing that. But if you're doing that to get a good resume, Not even arguing that either. Go for it. But like if you already have a good resume and you don't need it, I would avoid Amazon. Amazon is a capitalist wet dream. I don't think it is. I don't think they're actually living. I think they could make a lot more money. I think Amazon would do a lot better if they valued their employees. I actually think that they're doing the anti-capitalist move, right? They're not thinking about it from how to make really good money and make a good culture and make good products, right? They're not. I think they're severely underperforming. They're just so big they can, right? They're too big to fail. They can continuously lose people, tribal knowledge and all that because they're so effing big that they can just like make terrible decisions year after year and just make money hand over fist because of AWS. Personal belief though. Right? Amazon is like that even at the lower levels at companies in a warehouse. Yeah. I don't know how wrong I am or how right I am. These are, obviously this is just how I feel. I'm giving you the raw dog experience here. I'm not trying to like cover my language and make it all nice and, ooh, gosh, I better not say anything bad about Mr. Jeff Bezos. No, I'm just trying to give it to you. Try to give it to you raw, baby. Valuing remote or hybrid work versus a fully on-site. Unsurprisingly, several respondents say it's more important to be able to work remotely or at least not to have to be in the office every day. This expectation likely reflects the market reality in tech, where many employers have to settle on hybrid work. Yeah. I think that's fine. I think that's reasonable. I think everyone's kind of arriving there. Open, transparent culture. Respondents working at companies with this kind of culture appreciate it, while engineering in places without these qualities would prefer more transparency. Okay, fair. The CEO and CTO are not elitist boomers. Such a zoomer. Such an effing zoomer. And are super open with everyone. That and their hiring strategy led to an awesome team in general. My company could do better at reducing information silos. We take engineering don't like meetings trope to the extreme. Most information is passed on during one-on-ones or unofficial secret meetings that happen out of necessity. Interesting. I could see that. I could see like the never let an engineer have meeting. That's why I think docs are really good. Having all docs open is a really good idea. Obviously, there's some docs you could never have open, like why you're firing somebody. You could even have like internal company projections, maybe not open. I think you can, but I could see why you wouldn't do that, especially as a publicly traded company, because you don't want anyone accidentally mentioning something. You'd have to have, there's like a lot of stock and SEC requirements around that as a publicly traded company. But besides for that, like at Netflix, I couldn't sell stock other than 10 days every quarter, or approximately 10 days. Maybe it was like 15 days. But because I had access to a lot of docs that had a lot of financial information or like how shows are doing, all this kind of stuff. I had a lot of access to information, so I could only sell stock on very specific days. Improving transparency is something I would like my company to do more on. Decisions come down to the business quite frequently. Senior engineering at publicly traded company. Germany. Yeah, so German. Also German, no knowledge. I get nothing. It's all business, no engineering. Sorry. Working with great people. Team spirit, friendly coworkers, down-to-earth managers, and straightforward colleagues are qualities identified by Gen Z respondents who like their current workplaces. I think everybody kind of likes that. Ich habe einen großen Tannenbaum in meiner Hosen. Mir haben Hosen Tannenbaum. I don't know why I rub my nipples. Anyways, nobody knows why. Working with great people. Yeah, like I think everybody likes this, purposeful, rewarding work that's useful. Below is a quote from someone who was, well aligned with their company's mission, who's having a good time. We are building some cool new platform to bring engineers together, encourage collaboration and reuse, and try to remove red tape and politics. It's quite a rewarding organization to work in. Yeah, okay, so it sounds like satisfaction is a really big thing. That's what it sounds like. When you get to work for the sake of working and you don't have to simply wade through mud to do your work, it sounds satisfying, right? That sounds satisfying. Another respondent mentioned they appreciate the freedom to help grow the company. I am free to work in a way that I want and where I want, and the main goal to implement things and grow the company. Beautiful. Beautiful, by the way. That's like everyone's dream. 1 in 3 Gen Z respondents would quit if their workplace culture is wrong. We asked respondents, if you were to quit your current job, what would likely be the reason? 35% they mentioned meaningless work, feeling unaligned with company values, few professional challenges, mental health reasons related to culture, or unreasonable expectations. Interesting. Okay. I'm curious what this means. Like, companies typically don't have values. It must not. It must mean something else. Typically, companies don't have value. Some of them do. I'm curious what that means. And I'd have to. Maybe we'll have some quotes. Managers who care, specifically managers who care about team members. This really makes a difference as per responses. I think this makes a difference at any generation. Management could be more thoughtful about people in their lives. I work with other Gen Z folks, so they get me, but my manager often doesn't. Values? Yeah. Enron's core values were respect, integrity, communication, and excellence. You know, Enron fired the bottom 10% workers, and they encouraged people to step on each other's necks. Companies don't have values. Okay? Stop trying to rice your company. Hey, stop trying to rice your company already. You know, I just don't think, I know that companies value money. And if you get in the way of said money, you will not be valued. All right. All of my managers have been under the age of 45. So far, every single one has been pretty amazing. I always tell my friends hesitantly that I never really related to the evil manager trope. Why would you tell your friends hesitantly? What a crazy world that we instinctually, because what that means is that the instinct is to assume managers are evil and that you haven't experienced it. And that's kind of a crazy thing to just come into something assuming that you're going to have a bad experience. You know, that doesn't feel good. They are, though. What? What? They are, though? Like, you don't know that. You can't say that. Right? That's like such a per business, per team, per everything. You know what I mean? Like, just to assume that someone's evil is just quite wild. I'm not going to just, dude, I hate when people judge people based on some sort of like class type thing. You know, senior engineers are unapproachable. Yeah, some are. Some aren't. That's like me saying all junior engineers think they know everything. No, you can't say that. Some, junior engineers don't know anything. They think they know everything. It's just like, dude, stop generalizing. You just don't know. Stereotypes exist for a reason. Sure, they do exist for a reason, but the problem is what is the reason? I submit to you that I think more of these stereotypes like this exist because of Twitter, not because it's real. I think social media plays a large part in what you'd think is a stereotype or not. And you prime, I'm trying to be the end. I'm literally trying to tell you to evaluate it on a per case by case basis. You know what? I think it's better to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, to assume they're good and wait for them to break that, than to go the other way around. I know, crazy thoughts. Treat people the way you wished you were treated. I know, we're hitting the golden rule here. My team is very empathetic and understanding. You can ask for help, leave the office, or work remotely if you want. Voice strong opinions or feelings and so forth. All right, nice. Late stage robotics company. Let's go. Gen Z respondents with managers whom they see as low quality say that it's souring an otherwise positive experience. Absolutely. I bet you, I know Gen Z said 35% said this crap. I guarantee you it's not quite nearly as true as this is to me when I see this is idealized. But really, it's probably just bad team, bad manager, right? You have someone you don't like to work with. You have a team or a manager that you really don't like to work with. I guarantee you that just plays such a higher reason for you to quit. I've met very few people who, when company values change, they actually quit. In fact, I only know of one currently. Or two. I know of two people that they did that. My current manager is not supportive of my career growth. It is difficult to bring up any faults with him because he is very judgmental, with clear gaps between his stated preferences versus his actual revealed preferences. Oof. I feel judged for being younger than him, even though I am pretty proud of my technical skills, and he even learns from me. It feels to me My manager doesn't like being on this role and would be better off as an individual contributor. Yeah, I mean, that sucks. I do think that we do the weirdest thing in tech, or I think it's coming to an end, but I feel like we do the weirdest thing in tech where we find the most talented person possible and be like, all right, you talented person who has a track record of producing good software, stop writing software and start reviewing code and writing docs and manage people. It's just like, dude, what the hell are you doing, dog? What are you doing? What are you doing? Why would you do that? Like, you think that's gonna work? Ain't no way that's gonna work. Not everyone's made to mentor others. Yeah, mentoring others is not quite the same thing. Onboarding and learning opportunities based on this survey. It seems good onboarding and helpful documentation and supportive mentorship are top of mind for many Gen Z folks. Mentorship is strong, and I've had ample time to ramp up. You can do what you want in a sense that if you want to grow and increase your skills, you can. The difference in effort from completing tickets and actually owning something is immense. Agreed. Absolutely agreed. Onboarding is done well and in a structured manner. Mentoring is deeply integrated into our culture, and we take it seriously. I experienced it from the other end as well, and I like to mentor others. I think that's good. Dead Sea principle, right? Classic Dead Sea principle. The Dead Sea is the lowest place on Earth, if I'm not mistaken, and water runs into it, and the water's dead. If you only have people pouring into you, I don't think it's very good. You got to get that river, baby. You got to have ins and you got to have outs. Onboarding is extremely well run and polished. There are several explicit mentorship programs, including special ones for the engineers flagged as future leaders by managers, and exceptional informal mentorship on my team/org. Nice. That's really cool. Could onboarding challenges be down to generational divide? One respondent notes that older engineers don't care much for keeping up with documentation, and that younger engineers doing this consistently. I'm kind of on the doubt on this one. This is the problem of rare events, right? You just don't have enough people on this one. Onboarding and documentation at my company is not valued despite being absolutely vital. Older engineers would rather just have new engineers ask them what is wrong and handhold them, duplicating effort every time. It's always a younger engineer trying to push for better docs. I don't know, man. That's a hard one, okay? The hardest part about docs is that the moment you write a document, it's out of date. Any change in the application automatically starts making the doc fall further and further out. Like, docs are extremely difficult to get right, and I am most certainly not there. I am not a proponent of docs, but I'm also not anti-doc. I think there's the right kind of docs. Like, a good onboarding is good, right? Like, good general, like, architecture overview, exercises with the technology, maybe to build your own little, like, version of something. Like, some basic stuff, very, very nice. But anything beyond that, it becomes progressively harder and harder and harder. Obviously, it depends on the size of the team, the type of tools. Like, if you're writing an internal tool that is meant to launch every single, say, application into the cloud, then obviously one would expect good docs there, because it'd be crazy not to have good docs for that thing. That's like, that's like a core piece of functionality. But, when you have a product, the product is really hard to have good docs for, because it just changes constantly. It just does. It's like, it's so hard. Yeah, docs are used for protocol/spec stuff. Yeah, tools and protocols and that kind of stuff. Absolutely. It's when it comes to products that it just becomes excessively difficult. They are very generous in allowing me to learn. I almost knew nothing about our APIs when I first joined, and now I'm implementing workflows using post-auth like a pro. There are some truly competent developers who are willing to leverage their expertise to solve problems. Feels good. I get to work with some cool technologies, and I'm encouraged to spend time each week learning new things. Great and healthy job, by the way. This is a rarity. I personally find that you actually get that time, because this employer knows a little secret. Let your engineers explore problems, because they're going to be able to solve new ones faster and better. The more things you see, the more ways you can solve a problem. The more ways you know, the better way to solve, every single time. Having space for self-directed learning is something a few responses mention. That these people don't expect dedicated training, but to get to grow their skills with freedom in how they get things done. Absence of mentorship, coupled with autonomy, promoted this approach. They're very hands-off with me. They've handed me 2 contracts to handle, and I'm handling them. As long as I explain my plan and achieve it, they don't care how. That's pretty cool. I like that. Dedicated learning and development days are mentioned in one response at at a tech company in UK where 1 day per week is dedicated to L&D, or working on internal projects. I do really generally like these kind of companies. I think this is super healthy. I know Google was known for the one to start this, and that's how they got Gmail. Like it's funny that Google used to be a company that created all these cool things, and now they're a company that just shuts down stuff. They don't actually do, they lost the reason why. They lost the game. They lost the game. I just lost the game. But they lost the game too. Consultancies often sell specialist development skills like expertise in languages like TypeScript or Go, or technologies like ML and AI. L&D can help a company close more clients by giving employees time to specialize. Beautiful right there. They've fallen off so hard. Meta does the same thing. It only acquires. It cannot build. Threads is a joke. Yeah, Threads is largely a joke. Threads is just Instagram too. It's Instagram also. Documentation and developer experience. Exceptional or even good. Internal documentation and processes are cited by several Gen Zers, respondents as being positive. Respondents from workplace which lack technical documents say that they want to change. The importance of good developer experience was highlighted by young professionals at Meta, which invest heavily into this area. The internal tooling, developer experience, and available infrastructure is second to none. I would be so much less productive without these things. I'm gonna Uno reverse this person. I think that what you're going to find is that when you leave Meta, you will find that you don't actually know that much. One of the biggest regrets I have at Netflix is that I knew how to use Netflix's internal tooling for launching servers and doing all this stuff. And you know what? Like, I can't just jump in and create a nice FlyIO network of devices and have all that stuff done, because I've always just used really confined things, which just makes it really difficult. Now it's like I have to go and learn the way to do it generally, which just makes it hard. Hey, hi. Thank you for the raid. Appreciate that. Hey, boys. Hey. Appreciate the raid. Frustrations. The future. Let's see. The survey asked Gen Z respondents which areas their employers could do better in. Here's the most common frustration in descending order. Lack of career progression. Getting ahead at work is mentioned most often. There's too much variance in career progression, and I feel it can be unfair at times when different organizations have different standards for the same promotion level. It seems like you could just get lucky and get a promotion earlier than expected. Absolutely. 100%. Absolutely. Not every project gets you, like, there's people that deserve to be staff engineers, but because they work in a very siloed specific position, they're just not going to get it because they're not working on something big enough to be able to earn it. And that's just a reality. Or you put in the hard work, but don't get promoted due to your org's bar being even higher than other places within the company. Yeah. I mean, what's the inverse? What are you suggesting? The problem is that it's very hard for me to have sympathy with these, but I also get it. I have sympathy and I don't have sympathy because it's difficult. Budget constrained promotions. I know that really sucks. That really does suck. Budget constrained. Sometimes the face don't fit. Just move on. Yeah. It's hard. It is hard because some teams are just unfair to be on, right? You're on a team filled with just absolutely stellar people. That means for you to get to stellar is going to be much more difficult than if you're on a team filled with midwits that just complicate everything and can't win. And then all of a sudden, you're this person that just builds simple technology and keeps getting wins. You're going to be like, this guy's a genius, right? Are they upset that luck exists? Luck absolutely exists. To believe that me streaming to all of you guys, there is definitely luck in that. 100%. The fact that I had a YouTube channel and I had 2 years of practice before COVID hit, and then COVID hits, which just largely just huge influx of people, right time, right place, whoopsie daisies. You know what I mean? It's just like I didn't have some master plan. I wasn't some marketing genius. I don't look at stats. I don't care why you guys leave. I don't care why you guys join. I don't make tweets because I think you're going to like it. I make tweets because I think it's funny. I make videos because I think they're funny. I make videos because I think they're interesting. I make shorts because I liked that joke. It has nothing to do with me trying to be calculated, some master plan, ultra, growing person. I think it works because I'm just being me. Inspiring. Absolutely. Absolutely trying to, at least. My company has more traditional HR structure, which makes it very difficult to get people promoted and rewarded for hard work. Until late 2021, it was actually impossible to get an in-role promotion in software engineering. You had to apply and interview for other job postings in order to move up. Yeah, I mean, that's just bad process. I would agree that this literally is bad process. Just genuinely bad company, bad process. I'm not even sure where to even, this doesn't even make any, because a lot of times people are like, oh, the problem is that we used to be factory workers. Well, even factory workers, there's people that got promoted. This is just a crazy rule. This company is just fundamentally dumb. Bad company in process, literally. I agree. Software engineer at a more traditional company. I would say it's not even a traditional company. It's just a god-awful company. Onboarding, documentation, mentorship. Absence of structured onboarding, documentation, mentorship are cited as areas for improvement in Gen Z surveys. I would say that this generally is needed everywhere. When I got to Netflix, they handed me a PS3, gave me keys to the Perforce repo, and said, here's a ticket, go figure it out. That was it. That was my onboarding. Was figuring out how to launch a PS3, figuring out who to talk to, trying to understand NRDP, Netflix Ready Device Platform, and go. Figure it out, dude. That was literally my onboarding. I don't know. I don't think it was great. Yeah, wow, PS3, absolutely. They didn't train me? No, they did not train me. There was no training. I went into a meeting one day where they tried to explain their custom view framework. That's about it. I had some people draw on a whiteboard, some boxes and arrows. That was my thing. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'm going to go look at the code, which, by the way, looks nothing like what you're drawing. What you just drew me is the ideal. You should see the shit people are actually doing, okay? People are drawing, your boxes need to be completely readjusted because we all know what exists in your head versus what exists in software are two vastly different things. The boxes are never correct. They're never correct. Mentoring is terrible. I was left completely on my own for the first 6 to 8 months while I collected marginally helpful certifications. At no point did I shadow a project or get put on something that would actually help the company make better things. So I'm basically a non-entity until I can generate revenue for the company. I will say that you should definitely, when I hear this, I also see somebody. So there's this phrase that people say. There's this phrase that people say, which is how do they say it? I've heard it mainly with diversity and inclusion, which is diversity is how many people are at the dance. Inclusion is being asked to dance. I like to kind of Uno reverse that typically. If you get to the dance, you ask someone to dance. Don't just sit on the sidelines. And when I read this, it just sounds like you're sitting on the sidelines. What if I hate them? Then go to a different dance. It's not worth it. If you literally live in actual hate, I know you're being hyperbolic, but let's just pretend you're not. It's not worth it, man. Life is too short to be around people you actually hate. Second off, I would quickly check yourself before you wreck yourself. Because if you find you go to another company and you hate them again, it might not be them. It might be you. These nerds have never asked a woman to dance in their lifetimes. Your analogy isn't useful. Shut up. All right. How much structural mentoring and L&D are available depends on the type of person the company hires, the internal culture. Early stage startups rarely offer either. Yeah, that's because you kind of get it by just building the early stage startup, right? It's just figure out scaling. And then you're just okay, right? You get directed L&D, if you will. But new joiners get to learn on the job with impactful work assignments. Judging by the survey responses, large company with resources and plenty of internal systems could improve at showing young colleagues how and why things work. And new joiners may struggle to achieve basic productivity. Too much process or not enough. Several Gen Zers called out heavyweight processes as a low light of their jobs. Meetings, too many, oh my goodness. Like information technology service management, one framework which implemented, good golly. Product proposals. Software engineers at Bay Area scale-ups. Why is it called scale-up? Shares that their feature development process involves writing product proposals for their own sake. Yeah, this is a doc jocking, Google Docker. That tends to be a very common thing. You have to get like doc consensus. A software engineer at Big Tech complains that priorities are all over the place and that they've been reorged 3 times in the 2 years. Yeah, I always was super confused by reorged. It's just like, hey, everybody, we're going to move our desks. Everybody stays on the team, but we now are in building F, not building E, and you report to Bill, and Charlene now reports to other people. You're just like, cool. So you're telling me that's going to help our organization. Our dysfunction is because we didn't report to the right people? You sure there might not be like some inter-team conflict going on here? You sure there's not some problems that aren't solved by simply swapping managers? To be fair, bosses in some processes must be in place to avoid chaos during the growth phase. Product proposals, often called product requirements documents, aka PRDs, are used by scale-ups and above, and RFCs and design docs. It comes down to finding the right balance. There is rarely, if ever, a perfect process, and the best team or company can do is slash unnecessary process while resisting the urge to create a new one for each new problem. Yes, don't create processes due to problems, right? Created due to reoccurring problems that happen constantly. I see so many times that something bad happens, therefore we got to never prevent that from happening again. It's just like maybe it's a rare event, maybe it's a bad employee, maybe it's just a bad situation. Let's not add process for no reason. Let's add process for things that make sense. On the other hand, too little process is also cited as a problem by some Gen Z respondents. A software engineer at a mid-sized company in France shares valid criticism of their company, which the CTO might be wise to note. My current company doesn't have much process. It's a bit of a cowboy culture. We encounter issues scaling up operations without code reviews, pull requests, or a stable main branch. Yeah, I would argue the inverse, which is very, very simple, that I'm not 100% sure that you can change that by simply telling the CTO to tell everybody they have to do that, right? No one's going to give good code reviews. No one's going to do all the things they need to do. This is a bottom-up thing. This is a bottom-up thing. It will always be a bottom-up problem. You've hired people who don't value those things, and now you get no value there. You have to hire people that want this. Because even let's just say that you have required code reviews. How many look good to me's are you going to get? You're just going to get a bunch because they don't care, right? If you took this company who doesn't care about them now, making it a process does not make them care. It's crazy. Problems with the business. Founders, CEOs, and CTOs do well to ask the youngest colleagues what they think of their company's business outlook. Based on the survey responses, several people share that their biggest issue with the business is doing badly and that things will get worse unless the leadership turns things around. The biggest business problems mentioned by Gen Z professionals is quoted, negative cash flow. The root cause of problems is negative cash flow. People are asked to squeeze out a lot in a very little time. As a result, we have practically no work-life balance. Yeah, that's like a VC culture problem. That's a tough one. There have been 3 rounds of layoffs in the past year. That has also meant there is minimal funding available for promotions, even for top performers. Yeah. I mean, COVID was wild. A lot of people overhired. A lot of people thought the future was now, old man, and the future was not now. Venture capital problem noted. I do truly think the hard part is that there's so much money in tech. But that also leads to thousands of startups being funded in which one out of them will actually do something. Positioning and PMF Product market fit is a problem. The company needs to better understand the target audience and how to appeal to it. Yeah, this is interesting because as someone who's new to the company, the hard part is I often find that whenever I think that a company doesn't know what they're doing, it's because I don't know. Like, I don't know because I'm not in as deep. And so often what I find is when I think X, Y, and Z about a company and then I talk to someone in leadership and start saying things, they go, yeah, we've already talked a lot about this. This is what's happening. Hey, you're actually wrong about this. And, I find that this is often a perspective of inexperience. Now, I know that there's some companies that are just poorly product market fit. Okay. Rabbit R1. This ed tech startup I work at is dying. The business and product are both terrible. Yeah. You may want to work somewhere else then. Jump the ship. What Gen Z really thinks of older colleagues. So, how do Gen Z engineers see more experienced colleagues? There are some common things, but no two responses are identical. In workplaces, the age spread of Gen Z professionals is only around 8 years at present, assuming the youngest are aged 18. Meanwhile, other generations spread across a much wider time span, up to 40 years, which makes generalizations even more inevitable but less specific. As such, one below should be taken with a pinch of salt, as everywhere is different. If you're a senior professional who recognizes themselves in this feedback, I hope you get a smile out of it. Self-awareness is a useful quality. Old people's talk. Many Gen Z respondents say that much of the chat at work is about topics like family and kids, property ownership, and home construction projects. Yeah, I'm going to throw something out there. What are you proposing a different is? That old people should only be interested in the things you're interested in? It's like, people talk about what they're interested in. Like, I hate to tell you this, if you are like 40 years old, the chance of you having a house and having kids is much higher than if you're 21. Generally speaking, if I were to throw a dart in a crowd, I'm likely to land on a certain type of personality depending on the age, right? Like it's just, yeah, crazy that older people talk about kitchen remodels. I know, wild, right? But it's so annoying sometimes. Why is it annoying? Like, why do you care that somebody talks about what they're interested in? Let's just invert it. If you were the one talking, should they just go, oh gosh, super annoying young person talk? No. You're just like, hey, this man is like talking about this. Okay, cool. And if a young person talks, you're like, oh yeah, dude, I haven't experienced that. Tell me about that restaurant and your dog Bootsy. Oh, your dog Bootsy. Yeah. Oh, I know, your kid Bootsy. Sorry, not your dog, your kid Bootsy and your favorite restaurant. Just like your stream with Dragon, right? I'm just saying, it's just like, it's unfair to think that somebody wouldn't talk about what they like. For me, it's constant sports ball talk. Yeah, see, I'm not a sports baller, so I totally get that. But I also get like kind of pumped up when people get pumped up, right? I just like to see people that are excited. You know what I mean? This is exactly what all the 20-year-old kids need to read. Like, I like seeing someone excited, regardless of the topic. So if I see people excited about sports ball, I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm 30. If you're still in your 20s, read this. TJ, shut up. Teach, shut up. All right. Interestingly, there are two common contradictory themes many G respondents about their older colleagues. Several young respondents claim older colleagues are uninterested in their work and are tiring to work with. This especially is the case with coworkers whom they see as coasting. Yeah, coasting colleagues are very difficult, but I do not think this is a generational divide necessarily. I think that often when you have family and other things, just your ability to maybe not be as engaged definitely is proportional to your outside life responsibility. And the fact that people exist like this is both a bad thing and a good thing in the sense that it also means that there's room for when you, at some point in your life, might need to coast. I'm not saying I like working with coasting people. I'm just saying when coasting happens, just remember, At some point, you might have a medical emergency. At some point, you might have something that is very, very difficult outside of your job. You know, my wife had a miscarriage, and it was one of the hardest times in our life. And did I coast? Hell yeah. I coasted. Absolutely. Was it bad? No. But that's good, right? It's good that exists. Like, it's good that it exists. It's not a bad thing. But is it fun to work with someone that coasts? No, it's not. It's like, it's not good. It's not fun. So there is definitely like a dual-edged sword there. You know, I don't think I've ever coasted. I should have. Regret not. I think every now and then you need to coast for a moment, regather your life. I think it's okay. I think it's okay to coast, and you should be prepared to do it. I do not think that it's some end all where it's like absolutely not. You know, to tell you more about the light with my wife, I was actually becoming a manager at Netflix. My manager was mentoring me. He was really hard on me. He was awesome. I actually really appreciate that. But when this stuff happened, I just told him, hey, you know, I can't go forward. And he said, fine, I'm not going to mentor you again if you make this jump, because life is hard and you have to roll with the punches if you're a manager. You don't get this choice. And I just said, it's just not for me. I want the freedom to coast. I need the freedom to disengage. You know, and I was happy about that. What's the difference? Like, if you're a manager, you got to be on point for all of your people. It's true. And I get that. Like, I actually respect that opinion. I respected his outlook. I really, truly do respect his outlook, which is, if you're going to be a manager, you got to be on. If you're not, then like that hurts other people. Whereas if I'm by myself, it only like hurts my kind of like career growth, right? And it maybe affects the other people where they have to pick up a bit of my slack, but it's not the same as a manager, you know? So I really did appreciate that honesty. All workplaces and generations contain people who see work as just a job, and others who pour their hearts and souls into it. My guess would be Gen Z also has a similar split. Definitely bimodal, but it hasn't revealed itself yet. A Gen Z software developer in Finland says, if the ambition of a non-Gen Z engineer is normal distribution, I feel like the ambition of a Gen Z engineers are bimodal. Nope, I'd say they're both bimodal. Absolutely, they're both bimodal. I've met plenty of people that are just not. In fact, I would say it's the opposite. I would say that you have much more of an obvious bimodal distribution in older generations than you do in younger generations, or a much more smaller one. I think that more people are willing to coast in the older than in the younger, because life was just not about these kind of things. I just have a hard time. I just have a hard time believing it. Written communication doesn't improve with age. Perhaps unexpectedly, several Gen Z respondents say older colleagues have weak written communication skills. This turns on its head the ever-popular stereotype that each generation is a bit worse at writing than the one before. Well, yeah, I mean, older ones don't use Riz. I get that. They're not rizzing you at the writing. Some, not all, non-Gen Z people are atrocious at communicating via text. They fail to include important context or to communicate all the information necessary. They only communicate the exact sentence or phrase in their mind without informing the reader of anything prior which they need to know. I don't know. This is such a hard one. Have you ever worked with the wall texter that starts off the conversation like, hey, I just wanted to inform everybody that when Adam met Eve, they had a specific problem that was unique to them in which no other people have. And so therefore, after generations of research, and you're like, dude, I can't start it when Adam met Eve. I need the problem. What the hell is the problem? Don't give me this much. 1 hour meeting for nothing. Exactly. Like, both are very difficult. I'm not saying that they're good, they're good. They do a PhD in yapping. They do not communicate the same way digitally and prefer email. So many emails. Another example is how they start off team chats with just hi instead of starting with the point in their communication. It's a hard one. I mean, which one do you want? Personal or professional? It kind of seems like there's an oscillation between personal and professional here. Here's a sentiment many Gen Z folks express. I love the older generation of engineers, except some of them are horrible at writing responses due to questions I ping them. It's like they can only help via video. Yeah, fair. They didn't grow up on Discord. You know what? I actually don't think that that's a bad thing. I think that you just got to know what you're getting into. You know, I had plenty of people that I would only talk to via video, and that was okay. Like, I have this really hard time when, like, older generations should realize that it's more effective to do text communication with the younger ones. Absolutely. On your team. But the inverse is that you also have to recognize that some people have strengths in certain ways. Right? Not everyone grew up on IRC. Right? In generation observation, a millennial engineer manager says this generation prefers text messages to meetings. I mean, so do I. Connecting to these people is quite difficult because they don't like one-to-one meeting or meets or group discussions and better communicate over messages. You know what I think is the single worst thing that millennials keep trying to make happen? This is worse than Fetch. It's literally worse than Fetch, and they keep trying to make it happen, which is try to have like what is like some sort of coffee cooler, bring your drinks after work Zoom meeting or Google Meet. It's just like, yo, dog, I'm not showing up to an after hour work where I turn on my camera and have a bunch of other people turn on camera and chit chat. Have some drinks. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. Okay. That ain't it. That is not it. Stop trying to make Fetch happen. Okay. Christmas Corona party. Yeah, I know, dude. I'm not doing a employee celebration via Meet. Okay, that's not how this works. Okay, if you want me there, I need a flight, a hotel, and some drinks, and some delicious food. To be fair, that was fun when the pandemic started. Well, yeah, I mean that's different though. Okay, that was a unique experience for a unique time. Harsh feedback. Harsh is a word used by several young professionals to describe older colleagues, especially managers. Less empathetic, a bit crass. Perhaps the older generation can be a bit harsher and direct when discussing performance issues. I mean, didn't you just tell me you're straight shooters? So what is it? Straight shooters or not straight shooters? Which one? 58 out of 59 said they were straight shooters. Management and feedback is sometimes harsh as hell. I do agree sometimes people do say things harshly, but I think that often what I see is that this even happened at Netflix. Netflix was known for the very direct feedback, and it lost it. And one thing I used to see is someone would say, hey, I think this code and this PR sucks. Now, that doesn't mean I suck. It means that what I produced sucked. Fair, valid, take it away, run with it, understand it. But today I find that you can't say the code in this PR sucks, because then it's sub-saying you suck, which is not fair. Straight shooter, makes sense. If you're a gay shooter, this sounds entirely different. Pick, what does that even mean? I assume some of this is individual feedback with critique. It's possible to imagine. I mean, obviously there are people that are just jerks. I'm not saying jerks. Right? There's always going to be a jerk, and they exist at every single generation, okay? Jerks are one of the assholes. There's let's just face it. There's dicks, pussies, and assholes. All right? I assume some of this is individual. By the way, that's Team America. That's millennial humor. If you don't understand millennial humor, just go watch Team America, World Police. I assume some of this is individual feedback with critique. It is possible to imagine this could be alarming to some young professionals unfamiliar with unvarnished professional communication, especially when it's unexpected. Falling behind in the tech race. Plenty of Gen Z respondents reckon older colleagues don't keep up with new technology developments due to lack of curiosity. One gripe is that some older colleagues don't know or care about tech beyond the company's walls. I suspect this criticism applies to individuals rather than being a universal characteristic to non-G professionals. Yeah, but I mean, also it's just like I don't care about React server components. Matt Damon. Understanding artificial intelligence. Several Gen Z respondents say older colleagues are slow to embrace AI. Anyone see Copilot? Anybody? Copilot. Copilot. Come on, turn on. Yeah. Yo, dog. Most of my bugs happen because I allow Copilot to run. I don't embrace AI because I think AI is shitty. AI, let me hit you with some facts. If AI is a statistical model, which it is, it has this ability to effectively gather some distribution. Now, it may be some alpha beta distribution, it may be some normal distribution, but it's able to say, hey, your words coming in typically produce this output, and so this is the one I'm going to grab for you. Okay? Now, here's the problem. The middle input for programming is horse shit code, because unfortunately, the code distribution, it looks like this, okay? And this is shitty code. All right, hold on. Invert it. The code distribution looks like this, where this is shitty code, which is also most of the code. This is good code, which is also not that much of the code. So you're going to get a whole bunch of this, and I cannot tell you how much errors I've had to experience using Copilot. It's why I dropped it. I just got tired of all these little insidious bugs that happen due to Copilot. So yeah, I just simply don't care. They generally are anti-AI. They don't think it will replace software engineers with less than 5 years. Oh my God. Lord Jesus, help me on this one. You know what? I think it's I think it's a good time to do this. I think it's a good time to do this. I think it's a good time to do this. And tweet. And tweet. There you go. Enjoy. Hell yeah, brother. It just keeps on growing. Dude, it's an evergreen tweet that works every 2 months. And dead. Okay. They are bearish on AI, especially AI-infused dev tools. Yep, I am. I genuinely am. I am pretty bearish on them because it's a very, very simple reason why. It's extremely simple reason why. You ask an AI, you know what? Forget about it. Forget about it. You know what? What is it? Open ChatGPT login. I always forget oh my gosh. Chat, is it? There you go. That's the one I'm looking for. Can we load? All right. How many N's are in banana? Nice. It did a good job. How many R's are in strawberry? Can you highlight the R's? How many R's did you highlight? I highlighted 3 R's, which is incorrect. There's actually 2 R's. Highlighted an E, by the way. That's an E. So here's the general problem with AI, is that AI is really good at predicting what could come next. It is not good at predicting precision, and people don't understand the difference between the two. These are vastly two different things. When I ask it for a crab, it makes a crab. Why? Because all crabs kind of look like crabs. But when I ask it for a perfectly white canvas, it's just like throws gray in there. Because precision is different than approximation. Ba-da-da. They underestimate the power of AI tools. I think you overestimate them. I think generally people overestimate things, just like crypto. I mean, we've been in an AI winter, but in the 80s, I mean, this exact same conversation had in the 80s. And now you're saying, well, technology is so much different. Sure, it's much, much different. But the exact same thoughts were going to happen. Now, does there exist some future at some point in which it could be different? Sure. Sure, I'm sure that at some point exists. I mean, I haven't seen it. I don't have any proof that it actually will exist, but I'm sure it can exist. Right? And that's a big difference. That's a big difference. All right. Gen Z doesn't think older colleagues are totally useless, though. Oh my gosh. What? Don't want any music. Yeah. Don't you go dying on me now. Cool. I'm glad I'm not totally useless. That makes me feel a good way. Are you that old lady? I guess that guys that built the entire internet and its ecosystems aren't entirely useless. I know. Dude, that's like a crazy statement to make. Fundamental engineering knowledge. There seems to be a common amount of fundamental engineering knowledge and principles that I have yet to discover or be able to put in practice. In design reviews or SEV postmortems, they ask questions I'd never think of. Yeah, I know. Experience is wild. Test focused, more fussed about coding practices, doing things properly, and avoiding the cutting of corners. I find these good things. They know what they're doing, and it's not always due to experience. What? That's a very inexperienced statement. Really experienced, very calm in times of crisis. Yeah, I mean, this is what you hope. I mean, this is literally what you want. You want the energy and enthusiasm of the young intern / entry level engineer. That's what makes them fantastic. And you want the slow, calm goodness of someone that is older who has seen a few things. And so you can kind of mix them together, right? That's what you genuinely want. I feel like they have seen a lot of changes in crazy times and have war stories. Yep. I like that teammates have strong technical expertise without being intimidating. Yeah. On estimations, they are more conservative about milestones, probably thanks to their experience. Some respondents admit to being surprised by the depth of older colleagues. It can seem to me like they might not have the same understanding of technology, but I'm surprised how much technical knowledge and experience some of my colleagues have. Hell yeah, brother. Supportive of younger colleagues. Several respondents say more experienced folks are understanding and accommodating of newcomers. One Gen Z professional shares that they feel lucky to work with older individuals who help them succeed, while other respondents cite senior colleagues as smart, kind, helpful, and amazing. Okay, I like this. I like this. Several others say that they have nothing to complain about with regards to older colleagues and see eye to eye with them. All right, hold on just one second. I realize I'm about to run out of memory here. There we go. For the most part, we seem interoperable and socially compatible. I mostly work with millennials whom I feel similar to in spirit than the stereotypical image of Gen Z would suggest. I also think a lot of it comes down to individual personality and corporate culture. Fair, and factual. Man, it's still... all right, well, hey. This has been absolutely fantastic. Oh, where are we? Yeah. All right. One-off observations about older colleagues. Forget about, let's see, how much friction is in the system. A Google software engineer. This is a bit of a chicken and egg problem, but I think non-Gen Z employees tend to be more senior, and more senior people tend to lose track of all the friction of doing low-level implementation work. I find they usually have much better instincts with experience, but have unrealistic expectations about flexibility of working in a large system. Yeah, fair. More opinionated. From freelance consultants in the U.S. Generally, older engineers tend to be more opinionated. Sometimes this is very helpful. They've seen more cases of good and bad practices. They've often reaped what they've sown, and they generally know when to keep working on something and when it's good enough. But sometimes this can lead to slower adoption of newer practices and technologies. Yeah, I mean, that's fair, though, right? You don't fix what's not broken, which is not necessarily good, but it is just a thing. A developer in Canada suspects that when returned to office, RTO was announced at work. Older colleagues didn't resist it due to being used to work at the office for their whole careers. Yeah, that's actually a super interesting observation. If you got started during remote work bonanza and then got forced to go into your job, like that's a weird, I could understand that. Like your entire work experience has been remote and now you're forced to go back into a job. That was never my expectation. So I could see that as being kind of an odd one. Well, hey, we're now up to 2 hours and something minutes, so we're gonna go. I'm gonna finish this off. Let's see if we have like a little let's see if we have like some takeaways. We'll read the takeaways and we'll call it we'll call it a day, okay? The first survey conducted of Gen Z softwares and tech workplaces provide insights and some reassurance that professionals of all ages have plenty in common. Thank you all to the young professionals who took part in the Pragmatic Engineer survey. It's been a blast sifting through the responses from the latest generation of tech talent who will go on to shape our industry in the future. It's also clear that labels like Gen Z, Millennial, Gen X overlook the complexity and diversity of individuals who make up these massive cohorts. Nonetheless, generalizing accurately based on responses is one task of surveys. We hope this article gives a sense of what it's like being young in tech. You know, I think there's a lot of, I think that, I mean, I really do like the insights. I think the insights, my big key takeaways is that Generation Z sees themselves as straight shooters. They want to talk directly. They may not be able to hear direct communication, which may be just a sign of maturity that needs to happen. Remote work, obviously, really important. They're bimodal, just like us. Some people just want to work. Some people just want to work and then have life outside of work and just want to keep it kind of pretty separate. Some people want to be able to just go wild and do whatever they need to do and be able to work for 80 hours a week, and they just want to be a part of it, which is very encouraging, because the people that, you know, it's the people that may have a bit of mania, the people that obviously have ADHD, the people that really want to dive in and do stuff, they're the ones that are going to be doing pretty cool work in the next so many years. So I'm happy to see that it still exists. It's still a part of everything. This article does make it sound like they're a little bit of like the Dumb and Dumber, like there's an automatic discounting automagically because somebody is old. I would, like, in programming, that seems like the wildest notion to have. Whenever, maybe this is a millennial response, but whenever I see someone who's like 60 and still programming, I'm instantly like, whoa. They're 60 and still programming? Man, these people must have the greatest stories. I want to learn from you. What do you have to say? What do you think? Tell me about yourself, right? Like, for me, it's like, it's the opposite. I feel like ageism is in reverse in programming typically. It's actually the youngers, which they do express, that are discredited, and it's the olders that are the ones that are given all the credit. And I saw the sentiment in there, and I think that that's pretty reasonable, right? Please give me your experience for free. Exactly. Weren't you 60 prime? I'm going to get there. The man in the magic tower. Exactly. I was an idiot in my 20s. I was an idiot too, right? Sits up in his rocking chair and speaks about jQuery. Yeah. I'm 18 and I feel like that I'm in the middle of the Gen Z pack. Definitely not Gen Alpha. Interesting. Yeah, see, I've always felt Gen X by how I act and think, but I'm in the millennials. I was actually shocked to find out I was a millennial. I was like, what? That's because my older brother's a Gen Xer. And I was forced to listen to Rage Against the Machine and Beastie Boys, and I'd throw eggs at houses. and do all those things you shouldn't be doing when I was young that mostly Gen Xers participated in. I rode my bike everywhere, did all that stuff, and that causes a really difficult, it caused a really difficult thing for me because I discovered I was a millennial, and that's like a psychological crisis I'm still not over yet. Forced? Yeah. When you're young, you're forced because they're like, hey, this is what we're listening to. And if I would have been like, I want to listen to the Spice Girls, I would have got my ass kicked. You know what I mean? It's just not how that works. This is not how it works when you're a kid, okay? I also listened to Rage Against the Machine, and I was born in 2001. Hey, Spice Girls kick ass, though. Can we be real for a second? Hey, can we be real for a second, okay? Bulls on Parade mentioned. Best song when I was a kid. Best song. That, and of course, Another One Bites the Dust. Those are like my two favorite songs of all time. All right. When I was young. When I was a youngster. All right. Hey, this was good. This was really great. Good job, Gurley. I appreciate this. Hey, the name is Go Get 'Em Generation Z. One of these days, in about 30 years, I'll be retired. I do want to say one thing. I know I've said this a couple times now in other streams, but since I'm already here and you're a part of this and you got a force to watch it, just remember, you are young, okay? You're somewhere between 18 to 27? Just don't forget how long this window is, okay? I understand that you want to be the best or that you think you know stuff. Just think about how much you've learned in the last few years and then extrapolate what that could possibly mean for the next 30. You got time. Keep learning, keep pushing. Take time to listen to people that are older. They've seen some things that are wild. See what lessons you can take from it. The name is The Primeagen.